updating you on construction and refurb projects going on around the Disneyland Resort, like this super active site at Avengers Infinity Defense. Lots of things going on there. We've got the latest from the Matterhorn, the Walt Disney Show, and Indiana Jones Adventure. So let's get out to Harbor Boulevard and see what they're up to at Avengers Campus. And from the top of the Desert Sun Hotel, it looks like quite a bit. This is a very, very active work site back there, more active than we've ever seen it. Just from this view alone, I can see maybe 10, 12 guys down there working, lots of equipment, lots of, heavy earth moving stuff still. We got a crane, we got lots of things going on down here. We can see again that the shoring is still in place there. That's happening. To the left, you can see that the forms are well in progress. I think they're getting ready to pour concrete soon. We'll get a closer look at that in a second. But first, we're going to zoom in on these guys here, and you can see that there are several sort of shallow dug areas surrounded by what look like 2x4s. My assumption would be that they're getting ready to do, maybe these are for footings. They're gonna prepare concrete footings, and that's where their focus looks to be. You can also see a lot of surveying equipment there. So that, matter of fact, that guy right there, he's actually standing in one of those shallow areas. It looks like he's surveying as we speak, and there's a guy across from him probably receiving whatever those results are, it looks like. So lots of activity there. We're panning at the left. You can see some, I think that's conduit, either conduit or perhaps drainage pipes there, those black drainage pipes there, or conduit. I feel like, well, it could be either, really. Panning to the left again. Those are the forms, and these are well along. You can see the little gap running the top of those forms. That's where you pour the concrete. They've been reinforced already with bracing, so that suggests that they are ready for a concrete pour there. And it's hard to make out, but I think I'm seeing in front of that some vertical and horizontal 2x4s. I'm not sure what they're prepping for there. And is that rebar? It looks like there's more rebar coming up out of there. So they are actively building a frame for the subterranean, below grade concrete that's going to, provide the quote unquote foundation, the basis on which they build everything. So while we're not quite vertical yet, they are getting very close to, arriving at that point. There's no turning back now. This thing is being built. They're going for it. Let's take a look at the left side of the work site, and there's that yellow crane. That crane is craning as we speak. We couldn't see what he was lifting from any angle, but they're bringing in materials there definitely. That's the fully graded out work site there. The dirt on the left looks like there's a lot of rubble there still. So they did a concrete break somewhere. Somehow, somewhere, they broke down something that was built. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but why that's still there. You would think that they would have all that rubble or concrete removed. And then over there, we got some lifts. Those green things right there, those are lifts. I'm not sure what they're prepping for at this point, but they're getting ready to use those. So that's very encouraging in terms of progress. So this marks a very exciting sort of stage in the development of Avengers Infinity Defense. We absolutely have left the dirt phase, which is exciting. The dirt phase is the slowest, boringest part of the construction progress, and now we begin concrete and vertical construction after that. Steel, actual building, it's happening. On my way in to the park, having left Desert Sun, I noticed we reported a few months ago that they were doing some sort of trenching here on that, where that hedgerow is on the other, or in front of the green building, and that they were probably laying some electrical conduit or something like that, and they had planted some grass. That grass has died. That grass has gone the way of the briar patch, gone the way of raised berets. They planted, or they put the sod down and it immediately died. You see the dead grass, that's the new grass, that's the old grass, that's green. Old, or new and old, right next to each other. You could literally see the line of demarcation where the old grass was put in, where the new grass was put in next to the old grass. The old grass is doing fine. New grass, it's going to need some work. We got more to talk about in raised berets, by the way, when we get into the park. But for now, we're going to get into DCA to get on the Pixar Palaran. But first, I want to check in on Mission Breakout. There it is. We've been following the elevators there to see how they're going, what's happening. You know, because there's an extensive refurb happening there, and I was just standing by watching and waiting. And while I was there, I saw Alpha open up. We'll check back later to see if any of the other elevators open up. But for now, we'll get onto the Pixar pal around and see what's happening from above. And there is that same worksite we just saw from Desert Sun. What we're going to be focusing on is the rear part of that worksite, as if we were seeing it from the Desert Sun. It looks like, oh, is that more trenching there? Yeah, that's quite a hole they've dug back there, it looks like. Very deep. And it's hard to tell because it's such a long distance, and if we try to zoom in, and it gets a little bit pixelated. But it looks like they have put up some shoring there as well. And then there's that crane we saw from the Desert Sun. We'll head over to Cozy Cones, which is that, and now that looks like a lot of dirt back there. So, and it looks like we have an actual construction worker down on site as well, but that looks like dirt. So they have been digging up something along that side. Let's take a look at Coco. I just want to check in to see if anything's moved. Nothing has moved. All three of those structures that we're going to be paying attention to that are subject to being removed are still there. If we look to the right a little bit, that's the tree line that we talked about in last week's video. What we're going to be watching to see is if any of those palm trees and any other trees there get removed. That permit that was talked about from the OC Register and in Bricky's video that's the area that's in question, is those trees behind those buildings, and also the service road that's back there. You can kind of see the service road. That white truck, that truck is on the service road as we speak. So that's the service road that we're thinking may get pushed back a little bit. By the way, if you're interested, we will be updating you on our most recent developments from Walt Disney World. At the end of the Disneyland construction update, we will be showing you everything that's happening at Walt Disney World, including the Rivers of America, Hollywood Studios, Muppet Courtyard, and the Encanto land that is being built at Animal Kingdom. Let's head over to the restrooms that we were just seeing from the Pixar Palon to see if there's any updates from the ground. But as we've mentioned in previous weeks, this has really been kind of a difficult spot to see anything. The walls are doing a very, very good job of obscuring our line of sight here. Can't really see anything from this angle. Try as we might. We'll head over to Avengers Campus. And what we found, well, instead of seeing the restroom walls from this side, we're seeing that the walls have been brought out. They've actually brought the walls further out. The Humvee is gone, and that blue wall is now existing. The Humvee would be resting behind that blue wall if it were there today. So they brought it forward a little bit, almost all the way to the front of the gift shop. Why would they do that? My suspicion is that they need to take down the other wall that's behind it, the other blue wall that is actually very, very temporary. It's been very, very temporary ever since they built this place. If you see it from the other side, as like we saw from Desert Sun, it's just being held up by sandbags and 2x4s. It's not an actual constructed wall, like one made of concrete or something like that. It's very, very temporary. So my belief is that they need to bring that wall down in order to do some work in that space. So they have to bring forward another temporary wall. And okay, so we found the Hummer. They moved the Hummer over to, this is where the red car trolley used to, those tracks are red car trolley tracks, they would go through those doors. So they moved the Hummer over to that side. So at least it's not gone altogether, which is great. Next door, we'll check in on Mission Breakout in the elevators. We'll stand by and see if anything happens. And as we stood here, we saw, again, only Alpha and Charlie. I have heard from a few sources that, or confirmed that when Bravo is complete, it'll be Alpha and Bravo open, and they are going to work on Charlie next. Charlie is going to go down next, so we're not quite there yet. It's actually going to be a little while before they finish this project. All right, so let's hop over to Disneyland, where some interesting news has developed with the Main Street Opera House and the Walt Disney Show. I've been waiting for this. First of all, been waiting for this, for these signs. Finally, they have put up the new Walt Disney A Magical Life signage, these marquee posters out here. I've been expecting these imminently, and we finally did get them. And I have to say, they look fantastic. I love that photo of Walt. I'm not gonna lie, seeing those posters out here, those marquee posters out in front of the Main Street Opera House has got me so pumped up. I am so excited for this. I cannot wait for this to happen.
virtual queue be damned. I don't care. However they want to do this, I am so ready and down to see this show here at the Main Street Opera House. Can't wait.
So the virtual queue, it is on for the Walt Disney A Magical Life show. There's going to be 2 distributions, one at 7 a.m. This is starting July 17th. One at 7 a.m., one at 12 p.m. That 7 a.m. start suggests that you don't have to be in the park in order to join the virtual queue. You can get in the virtual queue from your hotel, from the parking lot, from your home, wherever you need to be. But what you do need to have is a reservation for that day. You need to have a ticket and a reservation for that day for either Magic Key holders or single day, multi-day ticket holders. So you have to have a reservation. Once you do that, then you can get into the virtual queue at 7 a.m. I don't have any expectation on how popular this is going to be, if it's going to be anything like previous virtual queues. I mean, there is going to be some demand, but I have to think not as much as there would be if it were like Runaway Railway. So for the 7 a.m., you do not have to be in the park, but you do need a ticket. For the 12 p.m., I do believe you need to be in the park for the 12 p.m. one. And you can do it from either park if you have a park hopper. If you're in DCA, you can get a virtual queue at 12 p.m. for Disneyland, assuming you have a park hopper ticket. There is a limit, just one show per day, so you cannot get into multiple shows. And there will be multiple shows. They run this thing, I'm going to guess, every 20 minutes or so. So there's going to be lots of opportunity, and it's a big theater, so there's going to be lots of opportunity for guests to get into this show. I don't think, if you want to get in, I'm pretty sure you will be able to get in. It's just a question of what show you get. And also, I would say that if they are doing a virtual queue, even though the sign says Walt Disney Magical Life and Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, I don't expect they're going to be showing the Lincoln show for at least as long as they're using virtual queue. If they're doing virtual queue, they cannot get you a virtual queue and then show you Lincoln instead of Walt Disney. I'm just saying. I don't think that's possible. So I expect that every show will be Walt Disney for the very short term at least. By the time you see this, we'll be just 3 days away. Incredible. Main Street, the clock is still missing. The clock is still gone. We'll keep our eye on that. Big Thunder, water's running. That's great. We were expecting this to hit the refurb calendar soon. I thought it would be by now, but we'll be standing by. But there is a big refurb or Big Thunder refurb coming. Stay tuned to Fresh Bake for those dates when they happen. And when they do happen, I'm expecting something along the lines of a 3-month closure, probably through 25. Star Tours is closed still. This is down for refurb, and it's really creepy seeing, or not creepy, but weird seeing no stanchions and no queues there. It looks odd.
Now, if you are somebody who likes to go back and forth between the coasts, like I am desiring to be at the moment, and you want some help helping you plan those trips, to schedule those trips, to give you some intelligence on the best way to navigate Walt Disney World, or if you're from the other coast and when it comes to Disneyland, I respectfully request that you use our travel affiliate, GetAwayToday. They are the best. We love them. They have been so kind to us over the years and have been, as has been reported to us by other referrals that we've sent them, they're very kind to their customers as well. And again, very knowledgeable. They really know what they're doing, and they will take care of you. There's a link in the description. Use that link to book your trip through Getaway, and that way we get affiliated with them, which is great for us, and it's great for you, and it's great for them. Win, win, win. We love it. GetAwayToday, link in the description. Hope you guys have a great trip.
Matterhorn is still closed, but reopening. We talked about this last week. They have a reopening date of July 24th. That's just about 10 days from now when you see this. We didn't see anything on site. We could hear vehicles on the track, but I couldn't see them. But there have been reports on social of visible track or vehicle testing. So all the work is complete. Absolutely, it's done. They are now into the testing phase to make sure that the vehicles are operating as they should. We talked about the dead grass out there on Harbor Boulevard. Here's Raised Berets today. This is now the second iteration of green grass that they have installed recently in the past week or so. And this one appears to be holding up quite a bit better. The first patch died in a couple days. This new patch has been here for at least that and maybe longer. So we're hoping that they got that figured out. I'm really excited to see some green grass again there. But as we mentioned last week, I keep thinking in my head, I thought it was grass before. It was ferns because they look like carrot leaves or the carrot tops or whatever that in the ground. But this is going to be proper grass. I'm not sure how tall that grass is going to get, but we'll hope that hopefully they let it grow. Let's check in on Pirates, which recently went off Lightning Lane last week or so. Hopefully you guys watched our video on what that effect was. A really interesting, enlightening view on the impact that Lightning Lane has on standby. As you look at this queue today, just an absolute dream of a queue for anybody trying to ride Pirates. That's it. That, as we were filming, that was the whole queue right there. On the bridge, there's no queue on the bridge, not even ropes. They didn't even set up ropes. So it's really cool. It's being very efficient. 10-minute wait, 5-minute wait. As we were looking, you can see guests just moving briskly throughout the queue. Loving this state of things at Pirates. Next door, Haunted Mansion. We have a date. It's closing on August 9th. It'll be down for about 12 days and reopening on the 22nd for the first day of the Halloween season. We'll stand by for that. So you've got about a month to get your final trips through Haunted Mansion in before it goes to the Haunted Mansion overlay for the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay. Let's go to Indiana Jones, where we had the good fortune of, you may have heard that they're doing a single rider. It's not permanent right now. It's just in a testing phase. And in our upcoming State of Disneyland report, we did a full walkthrough of how it works. But just a heads up that there are opportunities for single rider guests at Indiana Jones Adventure, and it is effective. It does work. It works pretty good, but it's a little different than it has been in the past. In the past, you would go into the exit, and I think they would send you through the ADA queue. You'd have to mix in with guests a little bit at the stairs, but then you would take the elevator over the stairs. They're not doing that anymore. They're sending the guests, mixing them in with the guests going up and then down the stairs. But if you're interested, just ask the cast member out front at Indiana Jones, are you doing single rider right now? And they'll let you know. And that's actually it for Disneyland. There's not a lot of active construction happening. The Matterhorn's going to wrap up here in a couple weeks. Walt Disney, the Main Street Opera House is going to wrap up, or it is wrapped up. It's going to be open in a few days. And there's no actual construction. There's some coming up. Big Thunder is coming up. Or their Star Tours also, that ride is closed. But otherwise, it's very little to observe in Disneyland. It's going very well there, I have to say. Still work happening in DCA, obviously, with Avengers Campus, etc. But the park is in pretty great shape as far as availability operationally. With that, we'll go to Downtown Disney, check in on Tortilla Joe's, which is pretty much exactly as we left it there. They're probably still working on some foundation and footings and things like that, getting that started. Earl's Sandwich looks just like it did last week. We're behind Scrim and Scaffold, so we can't really see what they're building inside there. But every time I go back, by there, there's just so much sound coming out of that site, which suggests there's a lot happening. And I do think I think that's new here. What we're seeing just over that Scrim is new steel happening on that side of things. This is over on by the security. So that's positive. Over here at the ESPN zone, the facade, I think, is done pretty much. They're still touching things up, but this is pretty much, I think, what we're going to get. There's going to be signage, I'm sure, installed for Lululemon, etc. Perhaps at the entrance there, but at the exterior, the general look of the exterior is what it is. They're still doing build out there. You can see the scissor lift, in fact. So I think he's installing something electrical, perhaps. Over in the Disneyland Hotel parking lot, we were hoping maybe there was some kind of activity happening here, but it was in fact just repaving. That work is done. People are parking once more at the Disneyland Hotel, but we do have a new permit. We have a new permit at the Disneyland Hotel. It's a small story, but it's fascinating. I love permits and seeing how things develop. It's a bit of a mystery. There's a permit filed for a change of use. They're going to convert an existing retail shop into 154 square foot adult changing room and 130 square foot open flex space. So a total of 284 square feet are going to be converted for the pool use. Now this is interesting because they don't say really where it is other than to say the Disneyland Hotel and the Convention Center. They're saying it's an existing retail shop. What are the candidates? The Fantasy Tower has two gift shops. There is the Fantasia shop, although I question whether or not this is one because it's enormous. I mean, I suppose they could just be, changing a section of that space, but it's considerably more than 284 square feet. And then there's the Small World gift shop in the same fantasy tower. This looks to be about the right size as far as 284 square feet goes. This could be it, but it's rather disconnected from the hotel. It's not really intuitive in terms of, if you're going to be using it for what are they calling it? An adult changing room. It's almost on the opposite side of where guests enter. It's not close. So I'm not sure how that works. But then again, basically anything at the Disneyland Hotel isn't exactly right next door. In fact, further, they're calling it Convention Center. Now, I don't know if there is no gift shop in the Convention Center that I'm aware of. And there's also no gift shop at the DVC Tower. It's just a lobby. The Frontier Tower has no gift shop, although it does have a really cool display of Big Thunder, which is brilliant. We will, though, by the way, while we're here, be checking in from time to time, as I noticed this today for the first time, that they're missing the R in the Frontier Tower sign. We'll keep an eye on that. And then the Adventure Tower also has no gift shop, although it's quite lovely. Strange, though, it too is missing an R in the tower. True story. I'm walking from the Frontier Tower over to the Adventureland Tower, and I'm thinking, wouldn't it be funny? I should make a joke about how they have their R on their sign. They've got their R, but the Frontierland doesn't, or Frontier Tower doesn't. And lo and behold, there's no R in tower. You can't make this up. That is hilarious. On my way there, I was making that joke to myself, and it wound up playing out. Hilarious. Fantasy Tower's good. So I have to say, at this point, the most likely candidate is a Small World gift shop. But I've never stayed at the Disneyland Hotel, so I'm not sure how convenient things are supposed to be, or what people are used to. But that's quite a trip from that space to get to the actual pool, if you're using it as a changing room for pool guests. Unless, by the way, here's a wild concept, unless it's not for the pool at all, a changing room maybe for a dressing room, like if you're trying on clothes, which then that could put it in the Fantasia shop. But I don't know. That seems interesting. I've never seen a changing room at a Disney gift shop. Now, we recently made a trip to Walt Disney World, as you know. We were there for the closing of the Liberty Bell, but the story continued the next day with immediate effect around the rivers of America. Let's go there next, and we'll actually start at Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. In the future, this will probably be the only view we're going to be able to get of Big Thunder, unless we get some help from BioReconstruct, which we will in this episode, but we'll start on one of our last tours around the river on the Liberty Bell to take a look at the Big Thunder construction site, or I should say refurb site. Scaffolding still up around the track, and they've been working on installing the railroad ties underneath the track itself, or creating that sort of immersive look of the old vintage railroad track, as opposed to the super high polished steel black tracks that we see now. I do not believe that this will be the final look of the tracks themselves, but there you see it. And it looks like, I see that they've still got that sort of Boston Dynamics track testing machinery there. You put that thing on the track, that yellow guy, you put that on the track, and you can do sort of a pull through of the track to make sure that everything is in order. But from this angle, it does look like pretty much everything is done here except for the actual track itself. We don't know what those special magical touches are yet, but we assume, as we mentioned before, that it's most likely, I believe, going to be something similar to what we have in that final lift scene here in Anaheim with the dynamite and the explosion and all that. That's kind of what I'm expecting to be added here on the interiors, but otherwise it's just a track replacement. 100%, they've replaced every inch of track on this attraction. And then here, the back side of the attraction, you can see the big crane in the back. We're going to get another look at that with some aerial photos. That bridge right there is that you can lift that bridge up and send the Liberty Bell back there backstage, which is shortly after we filmed this. Well, I should say the next day, they did park the Liberty Bell back there, but it has since been moved, and it is off stage. It is my understanding that they are going to dismantle the Liberty Bell. For those interested, they are going to dismantle the Liberty Bell. Is not going to be repurposed anywhere. Here is the Disneyland Railroad, and we're looking to the left on this shot because I want to try to, this is where that crane is. It's behind these trees, and you can kind of see a vague idea of what's going on back there. It's sort of a staging area, but there is some, visible, they're doing improvements or something back there. Let's take a look at those aerial images from BioReconstruct, who has become an integral part of the vlogging community, or those of us who are doing construction reports or construction updates. Okay, so this first one here is a very long shot showing obviously Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America on the left, Big Thunder in the center right, and then that staging area that we're talking about where the crane is in the far right third and lower right third of this image. Moving the camera around a little bit, a very high view of things. And now that area that we're going to look at is in the bottom third of the image, and you can kind of see a sort of a depressed, it almost looks like a meteor site, like a meteor struck backstage. Here's a closer look. First, you can see there's the Liberty Bell parked there. That's its temporary spot when it's backstage, or was when it was backstage, overnight. Big Thunder Mountain on the left, and you can see right next to Big Thunder, there was railroad track. Have they already? There's no way. Could they have already taken down that track? Do I have another image here? That would be insanely fast. Yeah, from this angle, it sure does look like there's no train track there. It's removed. There's the bridge as you take it to the backside of the river, and then that's on the left, and then on the right, that's the Frontierland station. So that's definitely the path that connects those two places. They have already taken out the train track here. Now, the train track or the train has been rerouted. We're going to show you that here in a little bit. But there's no chance of them sending any trains in this direction. Okay, so let's take a look. There's it's a circular pit that they've dug, and you can see there's some water collection there. Florida has a very high water table, so you don't have to dig very far before you start hitting water. And they've got pumps. They're pumping water out of there, it would seem. And I would imagine that's being done on a regular basis to keep the water out. But for what purpose, I don't, it's hard for me to tell. I'm not an expert in this department, but my suspicions suggest that they're building something here, because you don't do that unless you have a point, like a utility, some sort of utility is being done here. Be that, maybe a tunnel, or just some sort of below grade infrastructure is necessary back there. What that could be, I could not say. Perhaps people smarter than me can educate me on that, but I can't, the way that they're doing this, the way that they're, creating that depression in a circular manner like that, I wonder if it operates like oil drilling, where, if you've ever seen There Will Be Blood, like a straw, and from this point they can draw all that groundwater out from somewhere else in some other construction area, perhaps in the laydown yard, which we will be checking out in a little bit as well. But first, let's get on the ground and show you what we found on site the next day. This is the day after they closed the Rivers of America. Here at the loading station for the Liberty Bell, they've got a hedgerow to give you a very obvious visual indication that this attraction no longer exists. And if that's not enough, they took the sign already. they had crew out here last night probably taking down the sign for the Liberty Bell. How about that? And indeed, the Liberty Bell is no longer in dock. Nor do I expect them to come back out. That would be something, right? So the expectation is that we won't see that boat again. Whether or not, or what's going to happen to it in the near term, I'm not sure. I have heard that it probably by the time you guys see this video, maybe, I'm thinking like in a couple days, maybe over the 14th or so, they will send that backstage, not off-site completely, not even just backstage, but off-site, wherever they keep, other boats or things of that nature that are going to be removed completely. There's no future, as I understand it, there's no future for the boat in terms of putting it somewhere, making it an attraction that you can walk on, or maybe even shipping it off to someplace like Paris, which needs a boat. I don't think there is a future for the Liberty Bell. But that is just my guess. I'm just trying to observe and listen and make educated guesses. As for the rest of the river, there's no walls up yet, and you can still enjoy this little walking path, which I do often. So this is still here. If though you were to look on the Walt Disney World app right now, today, the very next day, it was struck from the app. Now it's just a grassy field in the space where there used to be Tom Sawyer Island and a river. So there's just absolutely, what Liberty Bell at this point. It's literally what Liberty Bell at the Magic Kingdom. Keep going down towards Big Thunder and Tiana's, and they got walls up here at Tom Sawyer Island, the rafts. These are a little less, I don't know what to call these. It's just interesting looking, these walls that are up here. I don't know what the message is other than, closed. Closed and closed forever. You may be noticing that right there, that's where they used to have a sign showing you a map of Tom Sawyer Island. They have taken that down as well. And as far as I can tell, I've not seen a single bit of signage out here saying, hey, here's Tom Sawyer Island, it's nowhere to get on, anything like that. They've taken all those signs down. Let's go around the other side. They have wasted no time. I don't see any sort of signage there. This is the exit. It's where guests deboard the rafts. They've got some maintenance crew across the river over there at the little resting spot. I'm not sure what they're probably, God, are they already stripping it for parts right now? Be real curious to know what they've got there on the dock there, what that could be. Meanwhile, over here by Tiana's Bayou Adventure, the Frontierland station is closed. They have just the 3 stations here, Frontierland, Fantasyland, and then Main Street. This station clearly is no longer operational, and you won't be able to take the back half of the tour. Hopefully you guys caught our video, taking the shuttle from Main Street to Fantasyland. That's kind of interesting. But we rode that shuttle. That's a new development that's happening now. So the train goes only from Main Street to Fantasyland and then back to Main Street again. The train does not go from Main Street to Frontierland and then from Frontierland to Fantasyland. That is no longer a thing, and it won't be a thing probably until they're done building all of this, I mean. Yeah, so we got walls up, obviously, indicating that, and there will be no train coming through here for a long, long time. The what's next conversation is one that's going to go on for quite a while as we try to, track the progress of all of these projects. The Cars project, the tear down, the build up, whatever. Oh, and Villains Land for that matter. The conversation is going to go on for a while, but it seems like they were ready. They wasted no time in striking the set, as it were, or getting started on striking the set. They are in progress on that, and you can see that across the river, and we've already seen that at the Liberty Bell. So they were ready to go on that right away, and I have a feeling that's a signal that they're going to start demo, when land clearing and all that right away also. I've talked to a couple different people. One person I spoke with said 3 years. Another person I spoke with said maybe even 2 years, maybe even late 27, which I would find to be shocking because it's going to take them 6 months just to clear. It'll take them 6 months just to clear Tom Sawyer Island, I figure. That's my guess. You got to clear it, and then you got to get it ready for, the dirt phase. Dirt phase takes forever. I can't even imagine them going vertical in less than a year. I just don't see that happening. So it's the demo and the dirt phase that take the longest. But we'll see. We'll see how long it takes for them to bring, earth movers out here. That's a lot of trees to take down, and that's not easily done. You don't just come in here, and just strip this, especially if you're trying to build something else on top of it. So that's going to take a little while for the Tom Sawyer Island. By the way, you can't see it, but I'm watching. There's a bunch of guys, a bunch of orange vests on the island right now. I just saw 3 or 4 of them walking from this point, either up those steps or back towards the mill. We got some green vests across the way. There are green vests, 2 guys, green vests and blue hard hats. Although one of them just walked into that building. So he's disappeared. There he goes. He's back. So 2 green vests, and I think that's 1 blue hard hat, and I can't tell if that other guy's a white hard hat or not. I make that distinction because the colored hard hats usually determine, and the vest for that matter, what their function is. I don't know. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I'm just observing that. And it looks like those 2 green vests have been joined by an orange vest and orange hard hat. So they're wasting no time at all. I mentioned earlier that they have rerouted the Disneyland Railroad. We've actually put a video up on this channel showing you that new path, but we'll summarize things here. Basically, the train is going to just shuttle back and forth between the Main Street station here and the Fantasyland station at Storybook Circus. It's going to go backwards from this point, and you can see it's really a trip. It's going to go backwards towards Fantasyland, and then after it gets bored there, it's going to resume its normal path, normal direction, normal speech, normal narration, everything from Fantasyland to Main Street. But the Main Street narration is quite a bit different. Actually, they had to create something entirely new, and so they brought in Stitch for that, which is humorous because he does it's a fun bit. I have to say, it's a fun bit. And while I would prefer, obviously, to get the Grand Circle tour around Walt Disney World or Magic Kingdom, this is definitely a better alternative than closing it completely. At least you get the experience. You get to hear the train. You get to hear the whistle. You get to hear some fun narration because their narration is great at Magic Kingdom. The narration is awesome, especially the point between Main Street and Fantasyland. But that Fantasyland bit from tomorrow or to Tomorrowland with the. Well, anyway, it's great. I love it. It's great, and I hope the guests will enjoy the new Stitch segment there. We've got some other news to report on. Around Magic Kingdom, we're in Tomorrowland, where the Astro Orbiter refurb is complete. We were here, a month and a half ago or so, and it was still being done. But they took apart that whole, orbital monolith there. They took it apart and repainted, cleaned everything up. It looks super sharp, super bright. It's a little overcast on this day, so the color is not quite as obvious. But there are better angles that we'll get to hopefully. But I can tell you just with my eye, you can see how much cleaner and brighter and more colorful, more vibrant the whole thing is. It's really great. There we go. Those are some better looks with the blue sky behind it. Astro Orbiter is a favorite of mine here at Tomorrowland. I try to ride it as much as I can because of the great views and the elevated track. We actually did take a ride. And it's as great as ever. I really enjoy this ride. I really shouldn't, but I do. Astro Orbiter is back and as good as new, and I absolutely love it. Something else we noticed on the ground, we reported on this last week as well, or in our last update, the Flight of the Navigator ship is gone, and they're still up to something. You can't see over the walls. The walls are showing that they've taken that whole thing out. There was a little ODV cart there, with the Flight of the Navigator ship. It's still missing. I don't know what they're doing back there. We got to look at it from the People Mover, and you can see that there's what was there before has been removed. I don't know if it's destroyed, but it's been removed, and so has the concrete. It's down to the dirt. So there's something being built here. Whether or not the Flight of the Navigator ship comes back, I do not know. I could not say. I'm sure hoping it does because it was a really fun part of the sightlines here in Tomorrowland. Stay tuned. We'll be back in the park, back in Magic Kingdom in August, I believe, so we'll have another chance to look into things. Getting back to the train station, something that I noticed on a follow-up visit, I saw the scrim and scaffold up there before, and then I finally took the opportunity to peek over, and it looks like they are resurfacing the walking space back there, the concrete on the second floor. I mean, just probably refreshing it, making it new again, but they're in a sort of dirt phase there as well. So we'll keep an eye on that as on our next visit. Let's now get on the monorail. So there's lots of things that you can see from the monorail. It's so much fun. I love riding the monorail at Magic Kingdom or at Walt Disney World, not just because I love the monorail, but also because it's a great view of all the things that are happening around the park. Most notably, staying at the Magic Kingdom is the laydown yard that you can see as you leave. You're on the express, the monorail express towards Epcot. As you pass by this tree line here, just for a brief moment, You can see the lay down the yard there in the distance. That is a staging area for most likely Cars, the Cars themed attraction or land that's being built on the rivers of America, and probably Villains Land as well. I'm not sure what the timeline is for those, when they're going to start building Villains, but Cars obviously is coming soon. They're going to start working on that immediately. And that's something that we'll be able to check in on from time to time from the monorail. When we're lucky, though, once again, we'll be able to get some views from BioReconstruct. That is the laydown yard there. This is a very long view. Again, Big Thunder on the far left. That's backstage down the middle from Frontierland and Tiana's Bayou Adventure, etc. And then to the right of that, backstage, is the laydown yard where you see all that dark dirt down there and then the lighter dirt on the top. That's the laydown yard. Here's another angle from behind. What you're seeing here, multicolored dirt, that's most likely, they're sorting it. They're sorting the soil or whatever else that they're pulling from, the work sites so that they can keep things organized. So you have different kinds of soil, sand, and possibly, other elements, other rubble perhaps. Where that soil and sand is coming from, I'm not positive at this point because I don't know. I'm not sure if they have started, grading the work sites for, let's say, well, they haven't, obviously, for Cars. It's still Tom Sawyer Island. I'm not sure how far along they've gotten on Villains Land. I think they have. I think this could be from Villains Land. That is, what's behind Big Thunder kind of situation. And then possibly from that site to the left of the railroad and Big Thunder, where we saw that, the meteor the meteor crater site. Actually, and now that I think about it, there is another site. There it is. Let's take a look at this. This is something from BioReconstruct as well. Something that I was not expecting, but damn, it really brings home the truth of what's going on at Magic Kingdom. This is completely disconnected from the rest of the park, right? This is in the same area, the same neighborhood as Magic Kingdom, but it's completely out of frame. This is an area that they have developed, and what it's going to be is the destination for all the water that they take out of the rivers of America. That's where the water's going. And when I saw that, when I realized that, it really brings it home, like just what's happening. This is going to become, I don't know what they're going to do with this water, if they got a plan for it and why they needed to, I guess that, I guess the water does have to come back eventually because there is a river component to the new Cars themed space. There is a river there. It's just not going to be as big, but they need to put that water somewhere, I suppose. So that's where it's going. But getting back to the laydown yard, hopefully in the near future, we're going to see stuff happening here rapidly, assuming BioReconstruct keeps his camera flying over Magic Kingdom, because we don't have any other views. So we're going to do the best we can. We're going to be there, like I said, in another month, I think it is. And, maybe we could see some things. Oh, where we could see some things is from Haunted Mansion, perhaps. When you that covered queue space as you walk along the river, we'll be able to see Tom Sawyer Island at least. You know what? Let's take a look at Tom Sawyer Island. Here we go. So that's the island, and this is going to be a great way to keep up to date on how this space evolves over time. How the river shrinks and changes, how the island, becomes graded, because as we mentioned on that on the ground stuff, that's a lot of work. Clearing out all that space is going to take some time. But one place where we might get an unobstructed view is going to be right there on that covered area, that Haunted Mansion queue space right there. So we'll keep an eye on that. By the way, we will also be keeping an eye on how this new development interacts with the perimeter of the river here. How is it going to interact with Frontierland, let's say? There will be a river there, but there will also be some snow-capped mountains. The Liberty Bell loading dock, that's actually going to stay, which is wild to see, but it's definitely in the concept art. That is going to stay. But I would very much love to see how closely this land encroaches into that space and how that's going to look when it's done. Let's get back on the monorail to see what else is happening around the park. As we were flying by on the monorail, we passed by the Polynesian, and if you look to the right rather than the left as you pass by, you can see a whole lot of, I don't know what this is, if it's related to the Polynesian or if it's related to the golf course, because there's a golf course on the other side of that view. I don't know if it's related to, well, it's certainly not related to what's happening at Magic Kingdom, even though we're not far from there. It's disconnected enough that this is a separate work site. I have not heard any talk or chatter about what could be going here, but I have a feeling it's just some sort of expansion of the Polynesian space, well, could it be? I don't know. No, it's got to be Polynesian. Staying on the monorail, there's the Lakeshore Lodge construction, an enormous 10-story resort that they're building on the other side of the bay there, and it's you can't really tell from this angle. I mean, it's coming along quite quickly, and hopefully it's a good-looking resort. You know, we got to hopefully have patience with the appearance of things, because the Polynesian looked like a prison when they first started building it, but it wound up being, you know, the DVC tower, but it wound up being quite nice. But the one thing that we're seeing talked about is how it's interrupting the view of a resort that already exists. This is Pioneer Hall. This image is courtesy of Blog Mickey, and that's Pioneer Hall. And you could see, I mean, I wonder if people are like, will that be okay? Because you used to be able to see on the other side of that the bay, and then, well, I don't know if you could see necessarily Magic Kingdom, but it was a pretty view of the bay. Now you can't see it. You can't see it at all because there's now this giant 10-story hotel there. I'm curious to know how find out how that interacts. I wanted to take the ferry over there, but I just ran out of time. Perhaps we can do it on our next trip. Take the ferry and just put eyes on what the impact of this of this new resort is on the existing resort that was there already. Incredible. I hope people are okay with this. I really do, because that's very interruptive. If we keep going on the monorail, you'll see more of that construction type work going on the backside of the Polynesian. Again, it feels like it's kind of connected more to the golf course that's on the other side of that street there, of that road, as opposed to being on the Polynesian side. So it is likely possible that it's more related to what they're doing, or something they're doing with the golf course, than it is the Polynesian itself. And then way off in the distance back there, you can see more work being done. Like, goodness, oh, there he is. Okay, so this is approaching the Polynesian again, a second view of that ride up. Staying on the monorail, this time we're coming back. This is from Epcot to the Transportation Center. And something I noticed on our last visit, and I'm sure others have as well, there is some sort of site being developed out there in the Transportation Center where guests park. You park, you get on a ferry or a monorail, and there's this huge mound of dirt. We thought perhaps it could be some sort of expansion, or others have theorized that, but I believe this could just be a place to put dirt. Where that dirt came from, I'm not sure, but it's probably just a place to put dirt, like similar to what we've seen at Disneyland or DCA with Avengers Campus. They're putting that dirt in the Toy Story parking lot. It could be something to that effect. I don't think this is an improvable. I don't think they're building anything there necessarily, but that is something, again, that we're going to want to keep our eyes on. That's Magic Kingdom. Let's go to Epcot real quick, where there's actually not, Test Track is pretty much done. Test Track is done. They're going to be they're already doing soft openings. They've done some, I think it's team member previews, and media, I believe, have been there, and they're doing soft openings. They were doing one when I was there, so nothing left to report on at Test Track. Construction walls up here in China, in the China Pavilion, probably just some resurfacing there. These walls popped up on the other side of the Mexico Pavilion as you pass by the temple. I'm not sure what they're doing here as well. I couldn't peek over the wall, but most likely, again, just resurfacing of pavement. We'll go to Animal Kingdom next, where obviously they're building a brand new land, the Encanto land. Well, not just Encanto, Tropical of Americas, because they're going to bring in the dinosaur attraction into this land space, converting dinosaur into a Indiana Jones themed attraction. But thanks to BioReconstruct, we're able to see over the walls. And this is a very long view of this. It's actually, the worksite is split into two halves. Right down the middle of the frame, here in this first image, is the path that we were just walking on with that clip. To the right there is the boneyard, and then if you keep going down that path, you arrive at Dinosaur. To the left is the worksite for the front half of the Encanto space. And then behind that, out of frame in this shot, to the left is the rear half where they're going to be building most likely the actual dark ride. There is that back half of the worksite, the Casita Madrigal dark ride, which we don't actually know what it is yet. We don't know if it's going to be most likely trackless, but possibly a boat ride. That image, the concept art image that they provided, doesn't really show you the vehicle itself, but the way, to me, it looks more like a boat ride, because typically in the boat rides, the set, the show, is a little bit above you. It's a bit above you, just like if you're on Pirates or Small World or something like that. The show is just a little bit above you, whereas in a trackless vehicle, the show is ground level or closer to ground level with you. And that's the perspective that I'm getting from that concept art. It feels like it's a little bit above me. So while I don't know for sure, but I hope it is, because I'm kind of over trackless rides. I'm hoping it is a boat ride, because those are infinitely more fun for me. And they're wonderful. Here's our third image. That's the back half again. You can see there's an elevation on the left third there. You can see there's a change in elevation. This is pre-existing, if I remember correctly. So you're going to navigate your way to that back side, and that's where the casita will be. And then here again is the front half. Most likely, it's difficult to tell because but the flat grading that you see, the light colored dirt as opposed to dark colored dirt, the light colored dirt suggests that it's going to be a flatter surface in that space, and they're kind of already there where they want to be in terms of grading. And you can see the orange netting around there creating some definition, some spatial definition. So most likely this is where you're going to find the carousel. There's a carousel in the concept art. That's most likely you're going to find it here, and then a whole lot of landscaping, beautiful landscaping, planters, and that could be, if we take a closer look, all that orange netting there it looks to me like it's creating a definition, and I'm expecting landscaping here. Like I said, planters and just a wonderful environment, perhaps water even. Actually, and according to the concept art, there's a separation between the casita, lots of landscaping there as well, by the way, very lush green area there, and the carousel. There's a path, and that looks to me almost like, you know what? That's not the carousel. Now I see. The carousel is actually going to be where Dino Land is. Or not, sorry, Dino Land, but the boneyard. That's the boneyard. That path is the path we were just walking on. So it's just going to be trees, landscape. Oh my gosh, they've really dedicated a lot of that space just to experience, just to aesthetic. Because there's the restaurants in the top middle frame there, and then there's Dinosaur in the the top of the picture. It's going to be the Indiana Jones temple, but that's Dinosaur up there. If I have my bearings correct. So the carousel will be where the boneyard is. That's fascinating. In this image, we're now looking from the opposite side. There's the walkway. That's the path that guests can walk towards as they're coming from, let's say, Everest or the Nemo show towards Dinosaur. That's that path there. So all of that flat area, that's just going to be aesthetic. That's just going to be a beautifully landscaped space. And then you start to transition into the casita. It could be the forward half where that change in elevation occurs, where it splits the front half from the back half. It could be this is pre-show. They might start building the actual casita there. That's the pre-show, kind of like the Haunted Mansion. You're right, it's not actually in the Haunted Mansion. That's probably going to be the casita there, and then the big show building in the rear of that, like Haunted Mansion has a show building. That makes a lot of sense. And then here's finally a very wide shot of the two spaces, front half on the left, rear half on the right. There's the river and the bay there, and Everest is out of frame at the top. And that's the Nemo show building, I believe. That's a lot of space that's one attraction. That's going to be one attraction. I mentioned the Boneyard, which I believe to be the destination for the carousel. That is still open, or was still open when we got here. Actually, it is still open today. We have a date. The Boneyard will be closing on September 2nd, and all of the space will be converted into what I guess will be eventually the carousel. So look for this to close on September 2nd. That'll be the last day of operation. We're going to park hop over to Hollywood Studios, where the only ongoing situation happening right now is the Muppet Courtyard. That whole space is being converted into a monsters-themed land, Monstropolis. We've got concept art, which we're showing you here, and they're going to turn all of this structure, everything here is going to be saved. This is the new concept here on the wall, and that's Pizza Rizzo right there, so obviously that's staying. Harryhausen's, that is, or was, Mama Melrose's, and then they're putting, obviously, the hanging door coaster ride backstage, all the way back there behind Mama Melrose's. We're not going to be able to see anything from the ground very well. I mean, well, there's not going to be anything to happen because they're not going to demo those buildings, so what we'll see is scaffolding go up, and scrim and scaffold, and we'll see them retheme these buildings into Monstropolis. Hopefully they do a really good job of this, because I would hate if they went halfway on this. You need to really make this bright and vibrant like Monstropolis is in the films. Monstropolis is a very colorful animated space. One thing we can look for is that building right there to get demoed. That is the one casualty. It's supposed to be right here where those purple trees are. That's about where that building is. So that's gone in the concept art. So that's one thing we can watch them do, is demo that space. Once more, thank goodness for Bio Reconstruct, because he recently took a trip over Hollywood Studios. This is an overhead view of what was or is presently Muppet Courtyard. And that's the Muppet Vision 3D Theater on the right, Pizza Rizzo on the left, and the fountain is right there in the middle. It doesn't look like anything has really been touched as of yet. Let's go to the next shot, and no, we can see now. Well, that's going to be, the camera is focusing on that building in the middle of the courtyard that's going to be demoed. That is subject to being removed. That building will go, and it's just going to become open space, more or less. But if we look to its left now in the next shot, yeah, they've dug up. You can see the green earth moving equipment there. They've dug up all the concrete there. In the front half where the fountain was, it's still concrete, but they've taken the top surface off. You can see that they have removed that top layer of concrete, but they're not quite at dirt. But in the rear, in the shade there, that is dirt. They are definitely in dirt mode there. So again, they have not wasted much time in beginning this operation of converting the courtyard into Monstropolis. Thank goodness, because they need to move on this quickly. They need to move on this quickly, and on Encanto, and at Magic Kingdom. They need to move on all of this quickly so that we can see results. The longer they wait on this, the worse it's going to get for them, I think. So they need to build this as fast as possible. Let's take another look from behind. BioReconstruct took a look at the cast member parking and backstage area of this space. There's you can see that they've sectioned off a section of that parking lot. At the top of the frame is the existing Muppet Courtyard. That's the left building there is Muppet Vision. Mama Melrose's, etc. is there, that white building, and then Pizza Rizzo on the right, and then that middle building there is the one that's going to be destroyed. So this is what's on the other side of that fence, this parking lot, and this is where the enormous hanging door coaster ride is going to be built. It's going to be the biggest thing that they've ever done at Hollywood Studios, bigger than Galaxy's Edge, bigger than Toy Story Land. This attraction is enormous. It's going to be, not wide and tall. It's going to be huge. Look at all that space that they have dedicated for this construction. Now, the building's not going to sit in this entire space. You can actually kind of see we zoom in a little bit, you can see some yellow markings. Do you see that right here? Those yellow, there's a line going down, and then it turns to the right, and then it turns down again. They've already created an outline of that space, and BioReconstruct has gone so far as to highlight that for us, which is fantastic. There is the outline of the Monsters, Inc. Hanging Door Coaster show building. That's the outline, and then they're going to, that's the show building itself. So that space between that yellow outline and the Muppet Courtyard, that'll become the transitional space. It's going to be an open space for guests to, kids can play. There's probably going to be some water features, some exterior queue perhaps, or, just any kind of play area. But they're going to do a transition from the front half to the back half, and then you enter the show building in the giant, Monsters, Inc. space. Really impressive. I got no complaints. I love the Muppets. I absolutely love the Muppets. I've been watching them since I was a little kid. I watched the Muppet Show live on TV when it aired, like when it was actually on TV. I would turn the channel manually to watch the Muppet Show. That's aging myself. I love the Muppets. I was not impressed with this space. Not impressed. I'm not a big fan of Muppet Vision 3D, even though it has that really close connection to Jim Henson, and that was the last project he worked on. I fully respect that, but I didn't feel connected to that show, and I don't feel connected to the space. And I have a connection to Monsters, Inc., so I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do here, and I think it's going to be a much more well-attended space than the old Muppet Courtyard was. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do here, and I hope it's an absolute smash. I'm hoping. And that is our coverage of Walt Disney World. And that is our construction report for this week. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate you. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And fresh baked.